amongst us are members of the ICANN Alimosho District Societies. They are here. I may not be able to mention your name. Just kindly rise up for recognition. Thank you. Notable amongst us also are the unit heads, departmental heads. We also recognize your presence. Thank you very much. Now, because of our time, the next on our agenda is the Vice Chancellor's welcome address. But before he comes to the podium to deliver his welcome address, I would like to give a brief introduction of the Vice Chancellor of Anchor University. The Vice Chancellor of Anchor University, Professor Samuel Oyebandele, hails from Ijesha-Modu, Ekiti, of Ekiti State. He graduated from the University of Benin with a first class in mathematics education in 1983. He bagged his master's and PhD degrees from the University of Ibadan and became a professor in 2001. At different times, he held various administrative positions as a vice chancellor in the University of Science and Technology, Ifaki, Ekiti. Also, he became the vice chancellor of the University of Education, Ikere, Ekiti, Ekiti State. He had also been the vice chancellor of Ekiti State University, Ado Ekiti. And now is currently the vice chancellor of Anchor University, Lagos. Professor Samuel Oyebandele's vision of enrollment, engagement, and enrichment for Anchor University has brought about a rapid positive change within the few months he assumed duty as the Vice Chancellor. I have the honor to welcome Professor Samuel Oyebandele, the Vice Chancellor of Anchor University, to the podium for his welcome speech. Kindly let's rise up to honor him with an applaud.
reduce unnecessary wastages, improves efficiency, and track or measure performance. In pursuing these objectives, therefore, it is necessary to ensure that procurement process are transparent and can easily link into accountability mechanisms. This provides robust support in eliminating the elements and factors that fuel corruption and other behaviors which impede progress and which erode confidence in the governance or administrative process of any organization. Procurement process is an integral part of a good governance or of a good administration and has changed from an administrative strategy to a strategic function with the overarching principles of value for money, integrity, and sustainable outcomes. Also, transparent procurement ensures integrity and prevention of corruption through greater disclosure of issues of conflict of interest and reinforcing codes of conduct or ethical guidelines, especially in contracting and sourcing goods and services. Permit me to emphasize here that as a faith-based university, it is part of my vision and what I want to passionately pursue to make sure that this university is rid of anything that is close to corruption, avarice, indiscipline, and all those things that I believe this particular workshop will academically address. Due to the relevance of this workshop, we have decided to invite all key stakeholders who directly or indirectly are partakers in budgeting process. I hope that the fruitful discussion at this workshop will create the foundation for future interventions with active participation of the university community to help build an effective and efficient digitized budgetary control mechanism and transparent procedure system. Please permit me characteristically to summarize my address in 3 ways. I want to talk to the accountants, I want to talk on budgeting, and I want to talk on due process. Those are the 3 areas that we're addressing in this particular workshop. I know most of us that are particularly professional are experts in the accounting profession. You are the owner of today's workshop. We other people that are just here, we are pretenders. We are just saying we are also part of what we are doing. I therefore charge you as accountants, the bane of our society is that most of the problems we have, they are caused by experts. They are caused by professionals. Those who steal in offices, they steal through accountants. They steal through their advisors. They are the one who knows it. You are the chartered accountant who knows the in and out. Chartered accountancy, it is not for us to be experts in advising managers of companies or managers of institutions to know how to cheat and they will not be caught. Therefore, God is expecting from me, number 1, trustworthiness. Accountants must be trustworthy. You are the hope of any organization. You are the hope of any country. The degeneracy, the decadence, the declension in Nigeria today, which is open to everybody, but which politicians may not want people to mention, is that the corruption level is scary. And there is nobody, no governor, no president, no vice chancellor, knows how to do this thing without active connivance, compliance, and support of those who are supposed to maintain the discipline that their profession calls for. I therefore charge all our accountants, eminent people that are here today, to pursue trustworthiness. Number 2, truthfulness. Let's be truthful. We can speak the truth and lose our position. That does not matter. God will provide another better position for you. The fear of what will happen to me, that is what is making professionals not to stand on their integrity. When our current bursar when he was here for his interview, I was part of the panel. And I asked a question from him. What do you think can cause conflict between a bursar and a vice chancellor? You know, when somebody is facing interview, if some of the things you know can fly away from you, I was watching, he was struggling with the answer. Maybe I myself did not know the answer fully. I wanted him to answer it. But when you are at a panel and you ask a question, the person you are asking thinks you know everything. I myself didn't know the total answer. But I just asked him. Well, after he has struggled, I said, we have tried. And I told him, what was in my mind was that the major conflict that exists between an executive and his bursar or auditor, it is executive wanting to force you to do the wrong thing. Oh yeah, go and approve, and you know this is wrong, and it will cause problem for the establishment. It will cause university a lot of money. But some people will fearfully do. I said, go and do it. Then there will be conflict. I told him that will cause a lot of conflict. But a very professional person that has integrity, you don't need to fight with your executive. You don't need to fight with those people. Just go and put it on paper. Go and put it on paper. Say, please, sir, this is the thing that I want to do. But I want to say that if you do this one, this is the implication, but please, you can still give further directive. We say we discuss. We discuss. Then you give it. If he likes that, you put it. No executive will put his hand on that. But if you are afraid and you go to do it, when the die is cast, the executive will say, please, I'm not in charge, I'm not the bursar. Then the heavy load will be on you. Most of the stealing, most of the problem in any country is not just done by the executive, but by active connivance of those who are to advise correctly. And that there must be truthfulness. The last one, that is that there must be transparency. Let there be transparency in order to do. Characteristics. All this change of, I think I will hold it both. I hold the two. That means the cuckoo hold the two so that you not just be changing and changing. Now, the budget also, praise the Lord. I want to talk about three characteristics that I also felt that due process should be eager to accomplish. When I came to this university, by the grace of God, I saw that our due process system was probably non-existing. Can say probably non-existing. And I felt, what? We're not going to help the university. Even though this is a private institution, even though nobody may be pushing off from Abuja, but we are here to represent an organization. We have a proprietor. We have council, and therefore management. We has the onus rests on us to also do things right. So I said there must be procurement. I tried to enhance it. And by the grace of God, I rely heavily on procurement process. I rely heavily as Vice Chancellor on auditors. I will not put my hand on anything. If the auditor does not sanction it, I called the auditor when I came. I said, you auditor, what's wrong with you? When I give you something, you just sign. You just sign. Is that auditing? I said, I will query him. They didn't know the type of person I was. I VC. I said, I will query you on this of budgeting. If I'm applying it to you and it's wrong, query, vet me. No, don't. And then he started his work normally. I can say today that we have a very excellent auditing force in this university. Some may not understand it. People can be fighting. They can fight they should fight the auditor. I'm happy that I'm talking before a guru, a guru auditor who is now a boss here. And that's the truth. Let them fight you. An auditor cannot be a friend of the people there. Then it means you are killing the system. An auditor cannot be too much a friend of those who are spending the money. You are killing the system. Let them fight you. Let the deans fight you. Let those who want money fight you. You have the book, is your cut it. There was a particular principal officer, the money was caught in a way, instead of going to see why it was caught, started fighting the auditor, fighting everybody. Is that how to run a university? And the auditor did the correct thing. So please, I want to talk on the due process which we are pursuing. Number one, there must be accountability. It's characteristics of accountability. That is to say, you must be able to account for what you are doing. You cannot just go and buy something and then bring it to the visitor. So I will not sign it. I will not sign it. You cannot just go in the corner and then you want to go and execute a project. Because of what? The VC himself cannot just sit down and execute a project that is a bit heavy. Maybe no. There must be due process. You must have the process committee. You must have either petty contract committee or tenders board that will pass through. That is transparency. In fact, I want to say these are things that indicate holiness. These are things that indicate righteousness. One can say, I'm a Christian, we're doing things wrong. That is not Christianity. So there must be accountability. Number two, in due process, I said there must be acceptability. What we are doing also must be acceptable. The servicing unit, they are involved. It must be acceptable to them. But it must not be to your unit alone. It must be acceptable to the management. And it must be acceptable to our proprietor. So due process is to ensure accountability. Is to ensure acceptability as to what we are doing. Nobody will be able to say anything too bad about it. If they are even talking behind, they know they are talking behind because they are not able to steal. So it is for acceptability. And the last but not the least, it is for affordability. That is the system. We have the budget. We have the money we want to spend. Our university here now, we cannot compare ourselves with Unilag. We cannot compare ourselves with even Covenant. No, we still make sure that whatever we are doing is based on affordability. As we are thinking of quality, we are thinking of what we have in our hands. Ladies and gentlemen, I've dabbled into accounting which I don't know, but I know they won't carry me. Otherwise, I think they will give me something. Praise the Lord. So, in concluding this, my address, as I come to the end of the brief address, I must again thank you, the Bursary, for this great thing that you are doing. I want to thank God for what God is doing in this university. I came here just by divine providence. Just by divine providence. Because I didn't want to be VC again. My beloved sisters here, when it's ABC or DVC, it's not as sweet as you think. All the VC of 3 universities, it's not as sweet as you think. Because if you want to fight corruption, corruption will fight you hard. And so what I did in the public school, that's what I'm doing here now. How can I do something in the public school? Then I'm afraid to do it in a faith-based school. If anybody's in this university and what you want to do is to stay in a place, whether you sneak here, you think you want to steal, you want to do something wrong, I will face you squarely. If you like say that I'm not born again, heaven will know he's born again. Among somebody who wants to steal, and somebody who is fighting somebody who wants to steal, heaven will know it. So I'm not saying our people are stealing, I'm just saying it generally. Our people here, they are wonderful. This is a faith-based university. I've enjoyed tremendous cooperation. I've not hired anybody to say he's stealing a cupboard. Since I came, I thank God for my staff. But I'm just saying this, that please, let us take note that what the Bursary is doing, since he came, I'm just impressed. God brought me here. And when he came and I saw his vision, I saw his passion, I said, God, I thank you. Look at Registrar, look at DVC. By the grace of God, this is our university, we are moving forward in the name of Jesus Christ. This particular workshop is so, it has encouraged me so much. We are not just carrying out, people are online listening to this particular thing. Look at the title, excellent. This one is enough for you to go and write a paper which will send to Q1 journal. And they are likely going to accept you with the title alone. Praise the Lord. I congratulate all the staff members for the cooperation, for your initiatives, and the way you have been supporting the Bursary since it came on board, and particularly the initiative is changing this particular seminar workshop. I congratulate all the speakers who have endorsed this seminar by taking the time today to share their knowledge and experience. And I also thank you, the participants, for setting aside the next few hours to benefit from this very important event. I look forward to an interesting discussion and fruitful deliberation. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir, for that wonderful welcome address. We are really grateful. May we have our seats. Yes, few things from the welcome address of the Vice Chancellor. Budgetary control is the primary function which gives guides to maintain monetary discipline. Procurement process is an integral part of a good governance to ensure transparency and integrity. Once again, let us honor the Vice Chancellor with a round of applause. Thank you very much. The next on the agenda will be the first presentation on effective procurement process by Engineer Kehinde Ajibola. But before then, I would like to give a brief introduction of Engineer Kehinde Ajibola. Engineer Kehinde Ajibola is a civil engineer by profession. He was a one-time director of works in the University of Ibadan within the period 2006 to 2015. He became director of logistics and project management in the same university, University of Ibadan, within the period 2015 to 2019. Also, he was appointed as a director of physical planning and project management, University of Ibadan, within the period 2019 to 2020. He is currently the director of procurement, University of Ibadan, from the period 2020 till date. He is currently the secretary of the Board of Trustees, Precious Cornerstone University, Ibadan, a faith-based university of the Sword of the Spirit Ministry. He is currently also a member of the Governing Council, Precious Cornerstone University, from the period 2018 till date. I have the honor to invite on the podium Engineer Kehinde Ajibola to deliver a speech on effective procurement process. Can we welcome him with an applause?
The Vice Chancellor, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, the Registrar, the Bursary, and all the members of management, and the other members of the high table, the deans, and other members of faculties, ICANN representatives, ladies and gentlemen. Well, it's a privilege for me to be here this morning and to speak. Really, the MC, he said I would deliver is it a speech or a lecture? I mean, I don't think it's any of the above. In that this is a workshop, I'm just leading a discussion because everybody here knows something about what we're talking about. Like I was telling the Vice Chancellor that he has delivered the first paper at this workshop because he did such a good job. And of course, by the time you know where it's coming from, you will not be surprised because he's been exposed and he's been on the field. Now, I want to talk about effective procurement process in a tertiary educational institution in Nigeria. Now, like I said, I'm not here to deliver a lecture. It's just to lead a discussion so that we, at the end of the day, we will agree on the things that are best for us. And let me tell you where I'm coming from. All the things I'll be saying is based on best practices. Because in Nigeria, until very recently, public procurement was not regulated. It was just left to, you just fashion out the best practices that you know how best. But in 2007, it became, there was a law was promulgated in Nigeria. And of course, that in fact affects federal government institutions that are benefiting financially from the federal government. And I'm aware this is a private institution. But the principles are not strict, they're just general principles. And of course, by the grace of God, I've been involved in procurement of works and services and all that for quite a while. That's before the enactment of the law in Nigeria. I've been very much exposed to that. So I'll be talking, even though we're in the university, I will not be talking from the ivory tower. I will rather be talking from, from field experience, so that's something that we can actually use directly. And of course, what we're talking about are the slides. Are there issues? I was just asking if I should wait for them or should continue. Well, let me start. When we're talking of procurement, procurement is a process. And this process involves three main things. First, it is finding that which you want, goods, services, works, as it may be. You look for it. You search for it. And the second aspect of procurement involves agreeing to terms, with whoever you want to get it from. You want to do a purchase, you agree, how do you sell it and all that, all the terms. And of course, the third phase of it is the acquisition, when you get it. And this is usually, when we're talking about procurement in this regard, is usually through a competitive bidding. Competitive bidding in that it is not just from one source, you just say, how much do you sell it, and you buy it. You throw it open. Many people that sell the same product or the same services, render the same services, they compete so that you are able to get the best prices for the same quality that you desire. Now, in the introduction, I think I should continue. I've written here that effective procurement is a veritable way to block leakages in the finances of an institution. Of course, the Vice Chancellor emphasized that all efforts that are going to build the finances of an institution will go down the drain if leakages occasioned by poor procurement practices are not effectively blocked. When our procurement process is efficient, we get value for every naira spent. This will push up the trust of the stakeholders in the system and encourage more benefactors to enlist in the task of building a university and make Anchor University great. Really, there's no alternative to an effective procurement process for the institution if we will be good stewards of God's gift, which is the university. Now, what I'm saying in the introduction is that the procurement is so central to governance, to any administration, because you must, there are goods and services that you must get, that you must use. And many of these goods and services, you have to outsource them, get them from outside. And when you get them, which is what procurement is all about, if your system of acquiring these things is not effective, not efficient, there will be a lot of losses. It will be a breeding place for corruption. And one of the effective ways to curb corruption is for you to have an effective procurement system in place. If it is lacking, there will be a lot of waste, a lot of corrupt issues, and so that is why it's important that we talk about it. It's important that everybody is carried along. And of course, we know that as an institution, a faith-based institution, we rely on the benefaction of the stakeholders. People contribute money, people give to the institution, but if they don't have confidence in us, they don't have confidence that their money is safe in our hands, many of them will step back. But when they trust our system, I remember there was, let me just give an example. In the University of Badon, something that happened a few years ago. The then Pro-Chancellor, the Chairman of Council, wanted to donate, through an institution. He gave the university $1 million. And when he gave the $1 million, so the organization that, okay, let me just even be plain, it was Airtel. So when they gave the money, and they were worried how the money will, if the money will actually get to, where it is supposed to go. And I was the director of works. So they said we should bring proposals and all that, how we're going to spend the money to be sure that the money was going to the right place. But when the chairman, so after we prepared that, the chairman made the statement, said, with the vice chancellor that is there, that you give them the money. They should not bother for the details, because he's very sure that the money will be properly and judiciously spent. That is what happens. Benefactors, when they have confidence in you, they will be able to give to you. But if they don't have confidence, they will draw back. They are not sure their money will go to the right place. So that is why it's important we should do everything that we must, so that we have a system that is clean, a system that is reliable, a system that everybody trusts. And of course, we know that we are stewards. We give account not just to men, even to God. And it should not be right if we don't have a system that holds us accountable, so that we can be good stewards. And it is when we are faithful in what He has given us that will give us more. Now, this presentation is based on global best practices, principles of the Public Procurement Act of Nigeria, that's 2007, which are in tandem with best practices. Then also experience in public procurement. My experience in public procurement, which antedates the Procurement Act, flavors the entire presentation. That is, I've aggregated all these issues in the presentation. Now, the outline for this presentation, the issues I want to talk about, where the introduction is done, then the procurement process, what does it entail? Then procurement planning, we're going to talk about that. Procurement methods, then contract lotting, advertisement. Now, this will be the part A of the presentation. Part B, we'll talk about pre-qualification. What does it mean? Because when we're involved in procurement, this is the language that you must be familiar with, so that you know what it's all about. Then bid submission and opening, bid evaluation, that's technical and financial, tenders board approval. What does it stand for? Contract award and execution, project implementation, project documentation, then recommendations and conclusion. These are the subtopics that I will talk about. First, of course, we know any project at all, any event begins with planning. I mean, that's saying the obvious. Whatever you want to do, you start with planning. And that is what the Lord Jesus Christ also taught us in the Bible. He said, who among you wants to build a tower? We not first sit down. Or want to go to war. You not first sit down and plan your strategy. That is the way it works. It is when we plan well that we are able to achieve. And of course, like they say, he who fails to plan has planned to fail. So when we're talking of effective procurement, it starts with planning, procurement planning. And if things are faulty at that stage, everything will likely not stand. So we're talking of the of procurement planning, which is the first stage. I've written here that procurement planning is the process used by institutions and other procuring entities to plan procurement activities for a specific period of time. That is, what you want to do for this year, this financial year, maybe 2023, 2000 and whatever it is, that particular period, you plan all the things, all the procurement you want to do, so that it's not just you wake up one day and you are just, of course, that is, even in budgeting, that's what it's about. You project what's to be done, even in the coming year. So it is time-based, that is, it's within a period of time, which is, of course, you see the link with the budget, with the budgeting process as I go along. So it's for a specific period of time. Then also, a feature of procurement planning is that it is advanced planning, scheduling, and group buying, and this should result in cost savings, more efficient operation, and thus achieving a more efficient use of available funds. Now, what procurement planning is all about is that it aggregates all your needs, all the needs of the institution. And instead of buying piecemeal, you plan together so that bulk purchase, economy of scale, you take advantage of it and you are able to get lower price, unlike if you begin to buy piecemeal. So there's an aggregation of the needs of the entire institution, and you now separate it according to your budget, as we're going to see later. And this will ensure that you get more value for money. We all know that if you go to the market, when you tell, what they sell for a piece, the price is usually higher than when you buy cartons, because it's when you buy wholesale. So that is the principle of this procurement process, so that it will not just be piecemeal. For example, stationery, you can aggregate it. And when you buy it, then from the store you can now issue to different units and departments. So also with construction work, with services, so there's the aggregation. So, and this is important in procurement planning. It's part of the things you plan so that you are able to bid down the price. Then, I said that the procurement planning is a 7-step activity. I will go through these steps one by one. And it is the bedrock for an effective procurement. I said that if things are wrong at the planning stage, it's likely every other thing will be wrong. Now, the first step in procurement planning is needs assessment. That's the very first thing that you do. The needs assessment. What are the needs? So that you don't just buy things. You don't just procure items, procure services that are not really needed, that are not core. So there must be a needs assessment which determines the procurement needs of the entire institution. And so there's no impulse buying, no impulse procurement. So you look at it, what are the things that are needed? Of course, you do this through adequate consultation with all the players in the system, with the units, with departments, with faculties. You consult with all those who will benefit from the procurement, so that everybody has an input. There's a wide consultation. And when you are consulting, you consult the end users, the management, of course. You consult the experts. That is those, for example, whatever it is, we'll have a physical planning unit or works. I don't know what we call it here, but something like that, because it's part of the NUC regulation, and you must have. So when you are planning construction, and these people too must have input. That's why you employ them, so that they can look at it with professional eye. So all stakeholders must be involved, because so that and of course, council also must be involved, because it will involve money. The needs of the institution for the financial year are collated. The list of the needed items, facilities, and services is generated. Through proper evaluation, a priority list is then done. That is, after you have collated all that is needed, and you will agree with me that the needs are always in excess of the available resources. There was something that happened in 2009. The federal government, for the first time, they said they wanted to do a special intervention through it was then ETF, Educational Trust Fund. That's the federal government. And they said they will give each of the institutions involved, I think 6 of the institutions then, and University of Ibadan was one of them. And I was director of works, and of course, as at that time, in the University of Ibadan, there was no procurement. I was also the procurement officer. So I was director of works, procurement, physical plan, everything wrapped in one. So, and they now said we should bring all that, the things we want to do with the money. The money was to be 5.5 billion. It was a lot of money in 2009. Even now, 5.5 billion is still a lot of money. But now compare the price, the value in 2009, when dollar was, I think, 150 or less. That's 2009. And now it is over 600. So at least the value is times 4 now. So they wanted to give UI. So we went consulting with departments, faculties, and all that. And after collating all the needs, very viable needs, we got 13.2 billion. That's all the things which were even screened. So, and all that is to be spent is 5.5 billion. You see the way it works. So we now have to set a priority list, so that we can prune it down to 5.5, the available funds. And that is the practical way it happens. All of the times, the needs are always in excess of the available resources. So you need to develop a priority list, having collated it from faculties, from units, from the offices. So having done that, you now have to set a priority list, so that something that is realistic, relative to the budgetary allocation. So you do that. That's the first step. Then the second step is the identification of required goods, works, and services. Now, what is involved here is this. For example, the need could be that in faculty of science, we need a microbiology laboratory. That is the need. Now, that is the first need. So when you are compiling the need, microbiology laboratory, maybe I don't think there's engineering yet. No? Okay. Maybe another faculty could be something else that they need. But now, at this stage, microbiology laboratory, you cannot get to the market and get a microbiology laboratory. Okay, is there anything like that? No. It will involve a building, it will involve equipment, and even the building has a lot of services involved. You now identify all that will be needed. For you to have the building, you need the services of an architect. Is that not so? The services of a structural engineer, electrical and mechanical services engineer. That's to get the building itself. And the equipment also. Of course, you just buy that and fix it, you procure it. So you list all that is needed, all the services that are needed, all the goods. So you break it down into that form. That's at the second stage. And so also, if you are buying equipment, all that will be needed, the training will be needed for the handlers of the equipment, for the technologists, and in some cases, you may have to employ a technologist for the equipment if there's none on ground, which will be part of the planning that you are doing. So you have to do that and break it down as to the works, goods, and services that are needed to meet those needs. So then step 3, that is taken, is carrying out appropriate market and statistical surveys, and on that basis, an analysis of the cost implications of the proposed procurement. Now, having compiled, having done all those things that you need, you now need to cost those items. How much will it cost? Cost of construction, cost of, you cost it. If it is equipment, how much can we get this equipment? You get, of course, that may be the. So you do a market survey. There are some that you can get the market, you get the prices, so that at the end of the day, you know exactly that this is the amount that will cost us to meet the needs. That's step 3. Then, of course, if it is works, if it's a building, for example, or an engineering structure like a road, a dam, and all those things, you have to do a preliminary design for you to be able to do a preliminary costing. So you estimate all the estimates, you have that. Then step 4, that's in procurement planning, you aggregate the requirements where possible, both within the procurement, of course. Now, what I mean by aggregating this is that sometimes you may discover that, let me use a domestic example so that we now go to something more important. There's a friend. At a time, they used to buy, they would buy live goat, slaughter it. But because one family cannot take it, 2 families came together, sometimes 3. They will buy, sometimes a cow or a goat or whatever, and now divide the meat. Now, it's a principle that can explode at the corporate level. Now, when we're talking about procurement, sometimes it may be, there could be some things. For example, Anchor University now, maybe we need some laboratory equipment. And you discover that another university, I'm just using that as it's a possibility. It's not something that occurs every day, but it can happen. Maybe another university, maybe another private, or even UNILAG, or LASU, or any of the universities need exactly the same equipment. But if you buy only one, if you can buy up to 3 or 4, the price will go down. You can come together and you buy it together as a single procurement item, under clearly stated terms. Of course, you agree internally. Sometimes you can collaborate outside the institution for you to enjoy a price reduction, to enjoy greater value for your procurement. So you look at that, and of course sometimes it's interdepartmental issue. The Faculty of Social Sciences, they need some things, maybe some material stationaries, and the VC's office also, they need a similar thing or set of computers. You aggregate them together so that it will not be that the Dean of Social Sciences is pursuing his own and the VC's office, they are doing their own. You aggregate it so that then the prices are calculated together. Then step 5, integrating procurement expenditure into yearly budget. Now, having known the prices, having known the exact things you need, it has to be part of the budget. We're talking of planning. We are still at the planning stage. So we are looking at the future. So it has to be incorporated into the budget so that it will not just be anything emergency. Of course, there could be emergency, but it should be minimal. So that it's integrated into the budget. Having done all this planning, it is now transferred to whoever is in charge of budget so that they will put it there. In next year budget, construction of maybe biochemistry, microbiology laboratory for Faculty of Sciences, it will be in the budget. It will cost 50 million naira. Procurement of equipment for microbiology laboratory, 20 million naira. So all these things, and even the personnel cost, they know they will have to employ a technologist. They will reflect it in the budget for next year. So that is a proper planning. It's not something you just wake up today and you want, to go to market. You plan ahead. That's the ideal. And sometimes there are some budgets, some projects that you cannot finish it in this particular year. For example, if it's a construction and the available money cannot finish it this year, you can program it so that it will flow to the following. It will be an ongoing project in the following year. So that for 2 years, you are, for a construction, maybe construction of internal roads, and you started in 2023, but 2023 you can only get maybe 100 million, and the whole thing is costing 350 million. So you say in 2024 also another 100 million until you finish it. It be an ongoing project, so you face it, so to speak. Then step 6, you now prescribe